Hello and welcome to another of my videos featuring foiling with a Go press and foil machine. So today I want to talk about this card. Now I've made this card using the small design pad from the Petit Jardin collection from Couture Creations. So there's lots of pretty papers in here. So they're the same designs as in the 12 by 12 pad, but they've been shrunk so that they're just the right size for making 6 by 6 cards. Now my card's actually a little bit less than 6 by 6 because I've cut an A4 piece of card down to make a card that's a 15 centimetre square, so it's just a little bit smaller than a 6-inch square. So I've trimmed my backing paper down. So I've done this with one of the papers, and for the demonstration I'm going to use one of the other pages, which is this one. So it's a very economical card to make because I need this, and I need a square of white card, and I need a bit of contrasting card just to go around the edge of the sentiment, and that could be some foil card or some coloured card, or another page from the design pad. So, but what I wanted to look at was using just this one little hot foil stamp to create the whole background for this, and it really doesn't take very long. I did this one while I was waiting for a cup of coffee to cool down enough to drink, which is pretty quick, because once you've got the hot foil stamp positioned, you just keep moving the card and you just reposition it. So I've done it once, one position for the corners and one for the sides, and I've used some of these beautiful Couture Creations foils, the iridescent blue green and the phantom purple, because I really feel like those work with the colours in the papers, whichever papers I'm choosing. So that's where we're going with this. So the first thing I need to do is to foil my sentiment into the centre of this. So I'm using Couture Creation Sentiment, one of the Anna Griffin sentiments. So that's what I'm going to be using, and I want it in the middle, but it doesn't have to be precisely the middle, because that whole area is going to be covered up by my square of card. Okay, so anywhere roughly in the middle there. So I'm going to use a magnet just to help me hold that still while I get it positioned. So let me just grab my magnet. So I borrowed one of these. It's a neodymium magnet, but I've borrowed it from my stamping platform, but you can buy them separately. I'm finding them quite useful for getting things lined up on my Go press. So I'm going to put that in the middle, how I'm going to want it, with the design facing down onto the card. I'm not going to put any foil in place at the moment. Okay, and I'm going to just put my magnet on the back. So now that doesn't fall apart when I take my fingers away. Okay, and then I need my Go press. Here we are. So all I need to do now I don't know if they show up on the camera. Let me hold this up to the camera. I've got some pencil marks around the edges on the plastic. I'm going to rub those out just with a normal rubber. My Go press is hot. I'm being a little bit careful not to get my fingers on it too much. I just want to take those extra marks out the way so they don't cause any confusion with what I'm doing today. There we are. Okay, so then I can take my paper and my hot foil stamp, and I can decide where I'm going to line it up on the Go press. Okay, now I'm using Big Shot Plus as my die cutting machine, so it doesn't matter if my paper sticks out the sides. But if it does matter to you, you might want to just line it up with one edge and maybe the bottom, and use those as your reference points. Okay, and then I'm just going to put a pencil mark over here to remind me that that's what I'm lining up with. Okay, and then I can slide my magnet off. Okay, so that's left my hot foil stamp, because I was holding it down through the paper because it's not been there long enough to get really hot yet. Okay, and then I can close that up and put it back on the base to warm up properly. Now I'm going to do my sentiment in the purple, so let's cut some purple foil while we're waiting for it to warm up. If I can only get the box open. There we are. Okay, so that wants to be, let me just look at the one I've done earlier, so I get the size of my piece of foil right. I always find it's better to have cut slightly too much foil off the roll and then trim it, than to cut it too small and then have a piece of foil floating around that you're not quite sure what you're going to use it for, because it's not the right size. Oh, let's just stick that tape down. Right, so a piece of foil, and I'm going to cut it as a square. And as usual, I'm going to just trim the corners off, because that helps to avoid some overfoiling. So it's the corners that tend to droop down and get too hot. So it's roughly trimmed to size. Okay, so that should have allowed long enough for the hot foil stamp to go up to temperature. So yeah, it doesn't really matter which way around the paper is, because I'm just using the middle of it and I'm going to cut it out. Well, now we've gone back to heating up. I'm going to pull this out. So I've got my mark. Not sure you can see it, but there is a mark. I don't want to tip this too far. No, it's not showing up on the camera. There is a mark just... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the camera to see the wrong side, that's why. There's a mark just there. Okay, so... foil. Put my card back on, so I was going with level with the bottom, level with the edge here. Okay, and you want to make sure it's not going to move when you put the lid down, because sometimes you know it wafts a bit. You just put a piece of tape on the edge there, just onto the plastic, not the hot part, and that will stop that moving around. And then I want my shims, which I've buried. Okay, and I know from using my machine previously that I need a double layer of 250 GSM card as a shim. I'm going to put that across where the hot foil stamp is, close the lid, and I'm just going to put this back on the base to warm up. Now normally I position my hot foil stamps and my foil without taking it off the base, but the base sits in a position where it's difficult for the camera to see it, so I pulled it off. So now I'm going to let it heat up. I'm going to put my magnet where it's not going to cause chaos over there, my foil out of the way. put that out of the way because in a moment I need my die cutting machine. Let me just get the die cutting machine. Okay, so the go press has come up to temperature, the green light's come on. I'm just pulling it off its base. And then I'm just going to slowly wind it through the die cutting machine. And when I get to the hot foil stamp, I should just feel a bit of extra pressure. There we are. And back the other way. Make sure I went far enough. And back the other way. Move that over there out of the way. Okay, so here we are. Shims. Card. There's my foiling. Okay, and I'm going to get the hot foil stamp off of here so it can be cooling down. There we are. And there's my sentiment in the middle. So I'm going to cut that out and add in the white. Oh, such lovely papers, it looks beautiful just like that. So let's close that up a minute. So I will be wanting to cut that out, but what I want to also to do is to sort out my square. So I've got a square and I've cut it with a die. And let me just measure it for you. Mine is 11.5 centimetres, but that kind of size, you could go a bit bigger, you could go a bit smaller, depending on what sentiment you're putting in the middle and how much space you have. So with this square I want to foil onto it and create a pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position the hot foil stamp with the tail, end of the tail in the middle. Now all the tails are going to end up sort of in a muddle and crossed over, but it won't matter because you're not going to see them. So I'm going to put it close to the edge there with the tail coming to the centre. I'm going to use my magnet again. Put that on the back, and then I can take my go press and decide where I want to position my hot foil stamp. So I like to keep my hot foil stamps kind of in the middle of my heated area. I always seem to get best results when I do that. So I'm going to line my card up with the bottom and the edge. There we are, which will put my hot foil stamp about there. And then I can mark where my card needs to go. So I'm going to mark it there. And I'm going to mark it there. So I know where it needs to line up. And then slide off the magnet. It's important to slide it rather than pull it. Otherwise you're going to end up moving things. So there's my hot foil stamp, and that can go on the go press to be warming up. Okay, and while that's doing that, I can cut out my sentiment from the middle of here. So I'm using a round die, so the alignment really doesn't matter all that much. There we are. I'm going to use a piece of tape to hold the die in place. I'm going to put it somewhere where if it does damage the paper it's not going to show. In fact, I'm going to put a second piece on the other side. There we are. So we'll die cut that. So we're waiting for the hot foil stamp to warm up anyway. move the camera. There we are. So there's my die cut sentiment. Don't forget to take the die off your pattern paper. Okay, so that's that. So that will go onto there, and that will cover up the hole. Okay, so Go Press is up to temperature. So let me see, I think I want, let me see, I think as my sentiment is in the purple, I'm going to do the corner flowers in the turquoise, blue-green iridescent. Find the end. There it is. Now I'm going to cut this wide enough for the flower. And because it's not going to matter if the end of the stalk of the flower isn't foiled, so I'm going to cut this in half, so I'll get 2 flowers from 1 piece of foil. Okay, so all I need to do now is bring the Go Press back, add the foil covering the flower and the leaf. Doesn't matter if I don't cover the end of the stalk. I'm going to put my card in place, and I'll use the lines I put on just to help me remember exactly where I lined it up. That goes there. And again, I'm going to add a piece of tape just so it can't easily move. My shim. Close the lid. Make sure it's warm enough. So back on the base while I get the die cutting machine. Now just while I'm waiting for that to warm up, I'm going to cut another piece of foil so that I can do these really quickly and you can see how quick it was to do. Okay, so I'm just going to bring the camera up slightly. There we are. So that's warm enough, so I'm going to grab that. Now I'm actually going to see if I can turn my camera around, if you can actually see my Go Press or I'm going to have to move the die cutting machine out of the way. So can you see the go pressed? Oops. Okay, so the answer to that was that when I try and move the camera around, it falls over. So I've moved the die cutting machine. So all I need to do now is take my piece of card off, take my foil off, okay, I'm going to take the tape off, and then I just need to add the next piece of foil. Okay, so I've just foiled in that position, so if I turn my card around once, I can foil in the next corner. Don't forget the shims. Okay, so if I'd been able to leave that on the base while I was doing it, I wouldn't need to wait for it to come back to temperature, because it would have stayed at temperature. So just flashing, 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 and then it's ready. So same again. Card out, foil off, take the tape off, put the next piece of foil on. Just check where you've already foiled so you don't fall in the same place again. Card back down, piece of tape at the edge. Yep, shims. Sometimes I find the best way, when you've got out of control foil, is just use a piece of tape and make it stick to it. So that's warming up. Die cutting machine back. Now while I'm waiting for this, I shall cut some purple foil. Okay, that's ready. As you can see, this is a fairly quick process. So last piece of foil, make sure I've got the right colour. And make sure I'm foiling in the right corner. So in that one. Okay, that's warming up. So while I'm waiting, I'll finish cutting this foil. That's ready. Okay, and now I want to take the hot foil stamp off because I need to reposition it for the next ones. So I'm just going to take that off, put the foil away. Okay, and leave that to stay at temperature. Okay, so now I've got flowers in all the corners. Take that tape off the back. So let's see where we are. So here's my card. There's that. There's my sentiment. Okay, so I just want some more flowers in the gaps. Okay, so hot foil stamp is cool enough for me to touch comfortably. Okay, so do remember it gets hot, so you do need a short wait between each of the positions, just so you can make sure you're not going to burn your fingers. So you need to decide kind of how you want that positioned. So I think I'm gonna yeah, I'm gonna go there. Okay, so let's get my magnet, put that on the back. Get the go press. And I can use the same pencil marks, that's fine. So I'm going to line up with those pencil marks and then just pull my magnet off, just keeping the hot foil stamp steady while I do. And then I need to let that get warm and then add the foil. Now the reason I like to let it get warm before I add the foil is that you're less likely to get foil coming out on places you don't want it if you let the hot foil stamp get hot properly and then add the foil and the card and then roll straight away, rather than putting it all on, waiting for it all to warm up and then rolling it. It just means that the card that isn't in contact with the hot foil stamp stays cooler and is less likely to end up with foil stuck to it. Okay, so that's now warmed up. So foil, card, a little piece of tape, my shims, and we go round again. Just feel that increase in pressure when I get to the hot foil stamp, but it's not really stiff. You can just feel it. Okay, so and where they overlap, one foil goes over top of the other, that's fine. Okay, so now I need to add more foil. Turn my card. So if I do that one next, doesn't matter which side you do, what order you do the sides in, as long as you don't end up doing one twice. Yeah, I don't think you really need to watch me do all of these, so I'll do all the sides and then I'll show you what we've got. Okay, so I've just done the last bit of foiling. So this is just using one hot foil stamp, primrose flower, and there I've got kind of a whole background really. Let me take this off so it can cool down. And all we really need to do now is put the card together. So I've got my card base, my foiled panel, and my sentiment, and I've cut a mat for the sentiment from coordinating cardstock, and that will go in there in the middle there. Okay, so I'm sure you don't need to see me stick everything down. And for this one I actually raised the centre part up on some foil pads. Okay, thank you for watching.